All right, everybody, here we go again. We're looking at April 15th to the 21st. I know a lot of you are really excited about having some new energies coming into play. And the good news is there is some new energy. The bad news is there's that same old energy that we've been dealing with for a couple weeks now, looking for the little diamond in the haystack. And we got to get into our stance. Are you ready to surf? Well, here's the summary slide. And for those of you who are new, we're looking for the overlap. We're going to find the one main energy that all of us have a chance of feeling. And this one's a tough one this week, sort of complex. But as we go through this sequence sequentially, you hopefully will know personally how this effect is going to feel in your own person, in your own experience. And basically what we have is a softening of rigidity. And this isn't saying that the old way of life is going away. This is more of a personal experience, a personal energy. We're all going to be feeling this a little bit differently. And it's sort of striking a balance between how do I be extremely unique, eccentric even, or do I worry about more going with the flow, going with the group? Now, the I-Ching that we use says dispersing, and dispersing, if you want to think, probably most people think of like the dandelion flower where you blow on it and the seeds go everywhere. That's not really, in my opinion, the best metaphor for dispersing. As we read the I-Ching, you'll get a better idea for what it really means. And it's not the ending of things, but it is everything to do with, there will be some endings based on your decisions. And as you tend to find the balance between being unique and going with the flow, you'll have to soften the rigidity of what you've known or what the world has presented you or with the framework that your parents gave you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then we're going to be looking at the Dreambot. And that's focused on, well, this is the collective unconscious. If you didn't know, the collective unconscious in the form of people's dreams is very much involved with the social cues or the social framework. People are concerned about the social environment, and then travel. People are wanting to get out of the groove, and that's very commensurate with the main energy. And then the astrology. Astrology is all over the place. First of all, we have Sun and Venus and Mercury all going into Taurus. It's going to really revolutionize what you're going to feel. And Venus, the main part there, and the sun's going to get pressured into finding oneself at the beginning of this week. Sun in Aries is self-identity and what do I want to be? Who am I? Those sorts of questions. Venus is more of relationships. So you already have sort of an idea for this main influence, eccentricism or being unique versus how much do I sacrifice and just go with the flow. And in doing so, you're going to notice that you're going to have to soften the way that you've viewed the world. Now, as we get into the later part of the week, now we're looking at a lot more squares, T-squares, and the trap happens to be Venus and even Uranus. So that's the astrology. I'm ready to get started. Let's do it. Next. Here's the Dreambot collective unconscious in the form of people's dreams, and the memes are pretty clear. The red is social, just social stuff, starting with cake. Now, it's more sort of a celebrational sort of a thing, but if you look at all these different memes, it is more happy than it is sad, but it is a very social thing. And then travel is the blue. It's moving through space, and it includes the world on there. And I thought I was gonna yeah. Well, even church was on there, which I think represented more social. It is or it can be very social. I don't know if it needs to be or not. But anyway, I don't really have a lot to say about the Dreambot, so let's move on. and we're going to get to the astrology. And not to play favorites, but I think not for me to say, it was the last comment. Not that that's important, but I think it's what we're all thinking. I'm ready for another CIRF report. It's been crazy as a Cancer, Sun, Virgo, Moon. I'm telling you, Sagittarius rising, Gemini, Venus. I'm telling you, it's not just you. There's a lot of us who are ready for a new CIRF report. The good news is there is a lot that changes here. And I didn't mean to play favorites. I didn't have time to respond to really anybody this week, and I apologize. Never been busier. And so that's the why behind the scenes, dealing with finance issues and too as well. So here we go. I mean, look at all these notes that I have on here. First, look at the red squares. These are all the squares. And remember, this is our last week of, sort of the soft squares. Now we get into all these reds next week. Take a deep breath. And then you have 3 planets, as I mentioned, going into new, the Taurus. There's your Taurus. Let me get the highlighter out so you can really see this. There's Venus at the beginning. She's already, as I speak, already in Taurus. And then, or I think maybe tonight she goes into Taurus. And then you have Mercury and the Sun very close by with a Cazimi and Combust and all that. And then later next week, Mars will go into Cancer. We'll talk about that later. All right, here we go. Oh man, tons of more energies. And to try to project how all this will feel on an individual is very complex because there's a lot of parts and pieces here. And that's why the triangulation process, in my opinion, is so vital, is to pull out what is the most important thing out of here. And it's not easy because it looks like a T-square here, but it's not. First, there's no opposition involved and there's no 90 degrees on the same planet. But we do have a lot of reds. We have a lot of squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 opportunities, sextiles, and we have 2 trines and 1 adjustment in conjunct. So where do we begin? Probably Venus going home to Taurus. Venus, the ruler, now within technical conjunction of Uranus, and so, or getting ready to, just outside of 8 degrees. And so little disruption starting in relationships, right as a disruption of Venus starts by just taking a nice deep breath coming home. Venus in Taurus is really experiencing the finer things, really having passion for it, seeing the beauty in the artwork. That's a very nice aspect of this, but I don't want to take that away. It's not, I'm taking that away with the but. That sounds derogatory, but it's not. You have Uranus here and might change the way that you see beauty and experience beauty. And so very experiential energy right there with Venus going into a conjunct with Uranus in Taurus. Then you have the Sun and Mercury still in Aries with a pressure cooker double square over to Pluto. So you got inner power and it's being pumped, this pressure, this friction, this inner conflict represented by the squares up to your identity, your ego, your thoughts about yourself. It's the Sun, which is very much me, my ego in Aries. This is the sort of the self-identity and what's in it for me. It can be an extreme case, selfishness. I like to include that, but I don't want to make it look like Aries are just selfish. That's not true. But we're being pumped up by this inner power, and it can feel like the end because that's what Pluto feels like. It can feel like the end. So maybe in that feeling of ending of ego, you start to realize just who you are. And your thoughts are in there too, because Mercury's there. So be aware of how you're communicating. It's not going to feel all that great. This pressure cooker here, it's a chance to power up your self-identity. And it's going to go along with sort of inner conflict in the middle. That's what the double conflict here is going to represent. But hidden again, still, these haystacks are the 4 opportunities hit the sun through this pressure cooker, the ego, in his self-identity seeking, or her self-identity seeking. And your thoughts also have this double sextile. You have these outlets, you have these opportunities, these really nice, quiet, in the midst of all this chaos, opportunities. And one of them is the ability to, the Mars in adaptable Gemini, the ability to carry out this new identity. And then on the other side, you have the double sextile to Jupiter in adaptable Aquarius, and aspirational Aquarius and collective good Aquarius. But Jupiter is wisdom, and you can see the wisdom, you can realize the wisdom, deep insights, very positive as well. And it could be a knowledge thing. That's what Aquarius is. The combination between Aquarius and Jupiter is going to be higher level knowledge and wisdom. So you have those opportunities there. What did I miss? I think I got pretty much all the big ones. I'm going to talk about the inconjunct on the next slide. Now that's Thursday, the 15th, Friday, the 16th. We have pretty much all the same energies there available. And we have the moon making another square here to Neptune. So pressured dreams. As the moon makes its way towards Mars, let's talk about this. We have the outer power, Mars, and the inner power, Pluto, in an inconjunct. And what that represents is both adapting. This is every bit important for the main influence today, or this week, which is the eccentricism versus coherence. It's a softening of rigidity, but it's sorting out your best mix of power. You're sort of on a continuum, outer power, inner power, and so you're just going to soften by making that adjustment, a little bit more outer power or a little bit more inner power, like what works for you. But this is the influence on you is going to be forcing you to slide that scale a little bit. So that's what that inconjunct is. And it supports. Remember that this sliding scale, as you slide it back and forth to adjust it to your parameters and in your optimization, is every bit as important as this pressure to find self and self-identity and the search for self and all that. And what's in it for me? There's opportunities there, and it's all related because look, the end of the inconjunct is where the sextiles begin, at least on one side, on the Mars side. Next, Saturday the 17th, we have, okay, so the moon is making conjunct, just whizzing past Mars in Gemini. So very adaptable, but if you think about, first of all, Mars loses its square. It was a square, I believe, over to Neptune. That is now gone. And so Mars and moon are together. So very emotional based, possibly impulsive action forward. Now this Mars is not conflicted much anymore. In adaptable Gemini, with your emotions with you, also adaptable, you can really put a lot of passion into your projects. And especially if you make that adjustment correctly with the inconjunct over to Pluto, in my opinion, it might be better for most of us to slide our slider towards the outer power. In other words, manifesting, because of all these sextiles and because Pluto is busy over here applying pressure over to the sun and making him feel maybe dead even, it might behoove us to move the slider over, have the outer power mixed with our passion and our emotion of the moon. And what else is the moon? It's more of that caring and nurturing. That slides right into the solution slide. So pay attention to that, and we'll talk more about that later. But that's the major focus, is all these sextiles, very beneficial, Now, Venus is further in. The next will be the sun. And I think Mercury's going to be before the sun, actually. So let's move into Sunday, the 18th. It looks like a lot of the red is starting to get cleaned out. No, it's really starting to pick up, actually, unfortunately, just different squares. Now, what is aging out is the sextiles. Those are starting to age out. And the pressure, this is a new square. It's a double square. Uranus and Venus now are 5 degrees away. So that energy of eccentricism, that's actually the word on the main slide. As you can see down here, eccentricism, that's the Uranus side. And coherence is the Venus side. These are coming together, and that is what the struggle is. That's what the main influence is from that main slide, softening of the rigidity as you force that balance to happen, which is right for you. Now you have that energy squared off to Saturn. Saturn is the planet of hardship, but like purposeful hardship, honing your skills, sharpening your sword. And so now we've got conflict. Do I spend time over here worried about whether or not to be unique or just flow in with the group and harmonize? Or do I go with the just do it the way it's always been? Well, that's what this pressure is saying that something new will eventually pop out of the bottle because this pressure is building and building and building, and it's going to explode. So it's going to result in something, and it's going to be in something to do with possibly change of finance, change of relationship, or change in the way you see beauty, or insights about your unique way of seeing beauty and art. And it's going to be associated with some sort of change of status quo or change of government. When will that take place? Who knows? But the energy is definitely there on a double square, and all these other adjustments being made and all these opportunities. That pressure needs an outlet. So there you have it. Monday, the 19th, is when the big T-squares start. We have, in other news, Mercury going into Taurus now and still combust, and so weakened, 2 degrees away from the sun. So thoughts are a little bit dulled. And then we go into more of an experience. This is, in my opinion, more of a positive nature on your thoughts and your communication. It tends to soften that a little bit. So Mercury right now in a combust situation with the sun is a little bit dulled anyway. And it's not like you do a lot of thinking in Taurus. It's more experiential. It's more grounded. Grounded means that you do less thinking. So already we have a double. It's not like you're worse thinking, but you're relying less on your thoughts. You're using your 5 senses more as you come into Taurus. And now we've got 3 planets in Taurus, and 2 of those, Mercury and the sun, are both in that T-square. So we've got a very transient T-square because of the moon is on one of the points. But you got the moon in home Cancer, Pluto, and then the trap points are your thoughts and the sun. So we just got busy doing our search for self. Maybe we get trapped in that. Maybe you cycle into stories about yourself from the past, or stories, beliefs about how your life will progress. Something about yourself becomes the trap. Thoughts about self become the trap. So a lot of times what we do in T-squares is to come out to the opposite end of the zodiac, and that just happens to be Libra. Well, the cusp between Libra and Scorpio. And this is where the part of fortune is parked at the moment too. It just happens in that snippet of time. The part of fortune's moving constantly. That's not really that true. The zodiac is really moving around the part of fortune quickly. So anyway, all right. So anyway, the solution there would be harmonizing or going deeper into, depending on what the situation is for you, but getting out of the thoughts about yourself. And you could also use the outlet, the opportunity over to Mars. And like we talked about earlier, is getting stuff done, manifesting with your behaviors, your outward power. And then Tuesday, the sun goes into Taurus. Now we've got 4. And you've got, so all in all, you've got 10 degrees, Sun to Uranus. So they're all packed into a the first decan of Taurus. And pretty soon that will be all 4 of them conjunct. But right now it's a T-square on Uranus and Venus. So now this whole paradigm this week is eccentricism versus coherence, the softening of rigidity. Venus and Uranus are 3 degrees away in a T-square. So now the pressure is there. Pressure of change. It's massive amounts. You've got Leo and Saturn now that are having to be balanced. And then Uranus, Venus in Taurus is the trap point. So it is getting lost in the changes in your relationship, getting lost in the insights that are coming down about the way that you see beauty or the art that you develop. It's a very creative space, but it can be a trap. You tend to ruminate there. You tend to forget who you are there. And by that, I mean that it's fantasy. It's rumination. So that would be a mental trap. This is more of an experiential trap. And you forget that what you're experiencing. And that could be mental, emotional, physical, or even spiritual or social. And I would say that it's mostly social based on what we're seeing with the rest of the energies here. Mostly social trap. It doesn't mean that you can't be social. It just means recognize it before you get caught in it and you don't know you're there anymore. A lot of these alignments and T-squares are about a subconscious trap. So one of the goals, if you want to improve your life, especially on April 20th, is to become more aware. You can become more aware of what your thoughts are, your emotions are, all the internal stuff. Become more aware. You can know you're there. And then you can go to the other side of Scorpio, and be, really passionate about something. Or look at your taboo topics in your own life. On Wednesday, here we are, almost to a full conjunction of all of them, but not quite. And more importantly, we have the 3 squares on Saturn. But look how clean it is now. Boy, it's really cleaning up the sky. It's just this pressure, friction, conflict of all the things we just talked about. All right, let's take this off and we'll look at the I-Ching. This is the influence. We have 2 change lines on hexagram 59, which is dispersing. What do you guys think about this sentence here? The very first sentence, nothing survives forever. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but I get what they're saying. This is more of the physical reality. Nothing survives forever, right? Everything has its disintegration and birth. Everything has its cycles. Our obstacles will dissolve in time too. The erosion of that which has been solid is not a bad thing. In fact, it means that something new is in the process of being created. Now, if we look at the astrology for what is being created, I would say it has to do with Venus, because that's what the main things are changing here. In fact, it's a T-square. This is going to be our main conversion slide. So you might as well look at this again. Venus and Uranus, relationships, beauty, creativity, experience, finance. That's a big collective finance change as well. Okay, let's continue. Rigidity in the hearts of humans breeds an egocentric separateness. That is a foot stomper, folks. The rigidity that we talked about in that front slide, this is the why of why it's important to honor this influence, is because if you don't fix it, if you don't soften the rigidity, you're going to end up with egocentric separateness. And because that goes away from where people are, if you remember the Dreambot, social and travel, you don't want to be in separateness. And that's the downside to too much Aries. Too much Aries is I'm alone, can't find myself, that sort of thing. Thawing of closed hearts always improves conditions for everyone. Before the heart, the first thing to dissolve is a mental rigidity. Boom. All right, lines. Line 2, if you sense trouble on the horizon for a group or enterprise, reliable channels of communication within the group and with the influential people outside of it. Trustworthy information is a powerful asset during a time of rapid dissolution. Line 6, but before you move at all, consider the consequences of any action carefully. When treading through a minefield, it furthers one to stay alert and think on one's feet. All right, enough of the influence. Let's get to the solution right after this. Remember, innerzention.com is where you can get past life regressions. What a better way to get the whys of some of the most troublesome patterns in your life. Go to innerzention.com. All right, here we are. Holding together. Hexagram 8. This is the first part of our solution triangulation. Holding together produces success. High-level teamwork is achieved when the right players on the right team share a clear goal at the right time. Well, this is the right time, folks. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this, especially on YouTube, but even in the alternative community, we've definitely seen mainstream folks, even leaders, they're turning on each other. There's infighting there, but we also see it now, unfortunately, in the alternative community. And this breaks my heart because I'm ruled by Uranus. I'm automatically eccentric and different than the rest, and I'm okay with that. But I really don't like seeing us criticizing each other. It's okay to have criticism. It's just, is it okay to just keep knocking each other at the knees? We know that they're trying to divide and conquer us. We know that. So why would we try to tear each other down knowing this? That doesn't make any sense to me. So all successful teams have a shared vision and a good leader. I don't like the term good leader, and I'll let you decide why. Accept the structure of the team if you wish to receive its benefits. Otherwise, go off on your own. I like that this week is the solution is holding together, and it implies a very social fabric, but it does give us the option to go it alone if the group doesn't share our vision, doesn't share our goals and desires and principles. Okay, I really like that. Now, does this slide remind you of the 20th? It should, because Venus and Uranus are together. We're going to worry about Venus. Okay, that's where the holding together, the dispersing was, and the holding together. So you got both. And it's the 6th line of hexagram 27, and it's the Aries solution. All right, let's talk about what all that means. 27 is the gate of caring in human design. This is a gate that is both a fuel and an expression of sexuality. The drive to nourish is also in its polarity, the drive to be nourished, to cared for. Have you ever thought about that? That some of us mix the sexual feelings with the need to be cared for and nurtured. I find that interesting, but I think as a licensed counselor, I can see that in trends with unhealthy sexual experiences or sexual abuse or anything like that. I can see that manifesting in a misplaced nourishment and cared for uh, continuum in one's life. All right, back to the 27. This need to be cared for, driven at the sacral level, can lead to all kinds of sexual health problems. When the possibility of values and expression of caring come together, we have the channel of preservation, a design of custodianship, those who preserve and protect. This is the gate of compassion, the power to care for the weak, the sick, and the young, and can be impressively altruistic in its manifestation. Further, we had line 6 in this hexagram, so it's wariness, a protection against an abuse of generosity. It's not, so I love this. We get to go into these lines because it really winnows down the big scope here, because the gate of caring is fairly large, but this one says in terms of the caring, it's the power and strength to be realistic in one's capabilities to care and nurture. And it's the ability to say no. If I don't have the resources, then don't spend the effort. A tendency of over suspiciousness. This is the downside of this energy. The power of suspicion in limiting the expression of caring. Okay. So as you can see, we're still on the continuum of eccentricism versus coherence. And this gate here is the ability to care, which would be more towards the coherence. But it's saying wariness gives you the option of, instead of coherence and caring and nurturing, if it's right for you, it would be best to go towards eccentricism or uniqueness or solid boundary and work on your resources first. Time for the solution slide. Here we are. I couldn't find any slide or picture that really represents the softening of rigidity, but you can see this very rigid scope here. And this flow chart implies that everything is a very exact way and it's all pre-planned and everything. And that's sort of what we're getting away from in general. But it says, do I go out on my own, or do I cohere with the way things have been, or the group around me? That's the biggest question on the influence. Excuse me. And now we get into the solution slide. We had I-Ching 8 says holding together, teamwork and shared vision. Gate of 27 for the Rave Mandala says wariness, gate of caring, protection against the abuse of generosity. And then we have Aries for the sidereal solution. So when you put all that together, here's what we get in the very middle of this overlap. The best chance of success for us as individuals this week is to hold together with the right team, as long as the team holds the shared vision. The Rave warns us to protect against too much self-sacrifice, asking us to use power and strength to be realistic in our capacity to help. Fortunately, the sidereal solution offers us the Aries warrior energy, allowing us to be direct, ardent, confident, and intense. This is an excellent chance to continue that new moon from last week. Gave us a very intense new moon, new cycle in Aries. So from that new moon, we have a continuation of finding self, or refining the sense of self, or refining the ego. But with a Venus version of that is, where do I fit in with the group? Where do I fit in this relationship? How do I harmonize? All those considerations. And so This Aries sidereal solution, I love it because it not only gives us energy to carry out some of the recommendations from the astrology, such as the Mars outer power energy, manifest, get it done, that Mars and Gemini. This Aries gives us the energy to do it, and among other things. The mantra for the week is, what's best for me is best for us. What's best for us is best for me. But it's not that you have to get rid of yourself. It's knowing that it's a two-way street and finding that balance on that continuum. You know that mantra is both at the same time. And so another slider switch, sliding back and forth, finding that right balance in is it best for me or best for them, best for us, not them. I hate that term. Us. Is it best for us as a collective or our family, or is it best for me? And a lot of times what is best for you is best for us. And then in terms of, some folks want to know if we should be influencing others while we're being a part of this team or socializing. And I don't see anything in these anywhere in the energies this week. And so I don't have any comment on idealism and trying to convince others. You do that if that feels right to you. I don't know that there's any negative consequences here. I mean, just your standard negative consequences, such as losing a family member or losing a friend if you try to influence. So I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying keep that in mind. I don't know where that sits. If anything, it could sit with the I-Ching 8 and teamwork. And if you rise to be the leader, then obviously you're going to need some idealism and goals and start influencing others. But then the why comes in there. Why are you influencing others? What's the goal? What's the shared vision? You're creating all that. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for your shares and likes and comments. I'm so sorry I didn't get to comment back this week, but I read them all, and I share my biggest heartfelt love, energy, and light to all of you. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in another Surf Report next week. Adios.